Let's get it on.
What's going on, Captain Brown?
What's going on? Nurture your garden, Brown. I think
Yes.
this is nice little. I reckon we've got a good couple of names here to delve into today.
I'm enjoying. Since you made that switch and you was like, okay, I'm gonna take this mantle too. I'm gonna run with this name shit. I like it.
Exactly.
I like it.
I was getting bored of consistency.
That's it. Exactly. You gotta be consistent for a while, then you just switch it up on them.
I know. It's like it's like I experiencing what my clients go through. It's like, oh, I'm bored of being consistent now. It's like, nope, you got to stay on path. But this is raising the game. This isn't getting bored of consistency and letting it go. This is raising the game. That's the difference.
Stepping on up.
Exactly, man.
I like it. So we got a special guest waiting in the wings.
Exactly, special guest.
All the avid listeners out there. We got a
for our millions friend. And millions of our fans
in attendance and those watching at home. So we have my cousin Bilal is on the podcast with us today. Bilal, I've known Bilal for a very long time, as we just discussed. Bilal is, where should I start with Bilal? So, industry-wise, he is, I would say, the fastest moving, growing, arriving new talent into the industry, in my opinion. He's only been doing this kind of health and fitness game for a very short period of time. I think he'll say the same, but I think he's applied his own aptitude to it, his own work ethic, his own. He used his own issues. I can say issues. Used his own insufficiencies in certain ways to upskill his game, to study from different people, to be present in the room. And now he's at a place where he's helping other people do the same thing. So he's gone full circle in that sense. And I can't wait to talk to him more about it. So should we get him in?
Let's get him in, brother.
Let's go.
It's gonna be fun.
Hello.
Here he is.
Good afternoon, Captain Brown and Nashia Gordon Brown. How we doing?
Young man Bilal. You bottled it for the creative name, man.
I know I did. I saw your message after I got onto the call.
Oh, man.
We could have gone with Bilal Brown, eh?
There we go.
We could have had a few. But I like your names. Explain Captain Brown and Nashia Gordon Brown.
Oh, man.
Go for it.
So in the beginning of the week, we were just having a conversation, like, what kind of if there's like a set kind of questions we would ask our guests, what would they be? And I just randomly threw in there, like, just spitballing. Is like, if you were to be a superhero, which superhero would you be? And then for me, it's just good old Captain America.
I see.
He's not quite a superhero. He's got human problems. He's just a beast. He's righteous. He's a leader. Yeah. He will do the right thing, and that's what I want to aspire to.
Do the right thing. Yeah.
Do the right thing. And he's like, I can do this all day, man.
Man.
I love that line. Gets me so pumped.
And nurture your garden, Brown. What's the deal with that?
Nurture my garden, Brown. So I wasn't expecting to get into this so early on in the podcast. I thought it was one of those kind of we're gonna grow into this, huh? Nurture, grow. So it was conversations I'm having with TJ, and it was about how we've got our garden around us. Our garden is a metaphor for the people that we have around us. We have our parents, we have our friends, we have our family, we have our colleagues, we have our neighbors, all of the above. And it was just a nod to time right now, especially right now, but just in general. Let's give a nod to those people around us who we are in contact with day in, day out. Clients, friends, all of it, everything's included. How can we be more effective at nurturing each other so that we can go out into the world and nurture everything, right? So that was my connotation behind the name. We'll probably get into it more into the podcast, but that's a little snippet to whet your appetite as to why I chose that name. Which, again, my name is always motivated by things that we've just talked about. Sometimes I'm motivated by my faith, being clean shaved brown or like fresh shaved brown. Sometimes it's not that deep, but sometimes it's a bit more thoughtful. And a few clients inspired that this week as well. So I'll name drop some people as we get into the podcast for sure.
Nice,
man.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
So Bilal, how'd you come up with that?
Yeah, how did you come up with that name?
It's an interesting story, and I don't know if Umar knows this or not, but this is quite interesting. I was just thinking about this while you're talking about Nurture Garden Brown. Umar's mum actually suggested the name, And that's why my name is Bilal. Yeah. How crazy is that?
Who knew
So
that?
yeah,
That's
so
wicked.
the significance of that is basically Uma's mum decided or suggested the name, and we went with it, and here I am.
There
Bilal.
we go.
That's the story, right?
25 years later? 25 years later?
25 years later, bang on, yeah. 25 years
man.
later, here we are.
Young man over here.
Yeah, 25. I don't feel it, Jesus.
Spring took you.
Well, how do you feel? Do you feel younger or older?
I would say mentally a lot older. Physically, right now, I feel brilliant. I feel really good. But mentally, I think I can hang with the 30-year-olds and the grandparents. I always tend to get on with the older people. I don't know why. It's just a thing. I've always had this. Even as a 15, I could get on with the 20-year-olds, and it's just always been a mature sense of thinking, I guess. But
you surround it's like so does that mean like family? Everybody's older than you mostly?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. I'd say I've always been around my parents and grandparents. So I've always had to rub shoulders with people that are older than me, and conversations are much different when you're 15 than when you're 20, and etc. So, and these are 40, 50-year-olds, and my granddad, who's now 90-year-old, I hang with him pretty much every single day. So those conversations are pretty interesting. It's just based off of wisdom and experience. So I'm always used to having those type of conversations. Even with Umar or anybody that I'm hanging with, I usually get on with people where we have depth conversations about wisdom or life and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just always been a thing.
Yeah, because you posted recently. You're reading some. Oh man, what was it? It was a book. It was related to Islam, right?
Yes. Revive Your Heart. Yeah.
Revive Your Heart. Yeah, what was that
I'm
about?
actually so glad you brought that up.
Sounds
So a book. Oh, dude, it's Revive Your Soul is what I would really rename that book. If I had a chance to go visit the author and go, dude, why didn't you name it Revive Your Soul? Because it was such a impactful experience. So the book essentially just covers the very basics of living your life in 2020. Essentially. So you take the Muslim, and of course the religion is 1400 years old and counting, and of course some of the concepts and stuff that we would then were birthed at the start of the religion, and how to carry them over and live your life in 2020. But it's so surprising. It's stuff that we can all apply into our daily lives. For example, how we deal with our neighbors, communities. How do you empower your community? And you're talking about this, the people around you. How, as Muslims, is it our duty to empower the communities that we're living in and the communities that are close-knit, our families? And there's certain things that he addresses in terms of issues that we have as communities. We like discussing other people's businesses, but we're not too concerned about what's going on in our own garden, or we're not so concerned about nurturing our own environment. And so he touches on these various points, and he adds obviously principles and teachings from the religion itself. And it's astounding because you start to, and he says in the prefix of this book, he says, I don't want you to think about anybody else but yourself throughout this book. Any chapter at which point you start to go, oh, that guy does the exact same thing. He goes, you've lost all benefit from the book already. And that's pretty powerful, right? So when you read the book and you're reading those lessons and you're taking them in, he goes, I only want you to apply them to yourself. And that way, when you start to apply them to yourself, your perspective of how everything else looks, or you might start to discuss little mindful things that you see in other people, you're just addressing the very thing that is you, right? Just how do I act or interact with other people? My career, am I honest? Am I honest like Captain Brown should be? Am I doing the right thing at every step? Because the right thing is always the right thing. You should always do the right thing. And then he touches on other modern factors that we as communities face, for example, social media, and that when we ask or when we go for certain things, in especially in this day and age, we're a microwave society, right? 2 minutes in the microwave, out, and we want everything at an instant. It's just that demand and supply. You go to a restaurant, you get some food, you walk out, you're happy. And everybody kind of expects this now, right? We like on social media, we post on social media. A snippet of a life or a picture has now become, we can somehow extrapolate and say that this person's life is perfect. It's so immediate. But then he touches on this idea of you need to have an understanding that everything is, you have to have it over a long-term system or a long-term. So even these changes in your community, they don't happen overnight. They don't happen because you start posting on social media about your community, because that's not the way to do it. Because you have to get down and dirty and start addressing yourself, and then start to look at all these other functioning things in your environment. So it's a Revive Your Soul. Honestly, it's such a good book for non-Muslims and Muslims out there. Every single person I feel would benefit, because we all share the very similar problems. Religion isn't based off of this idea that it's only for a certain group of people. It's based on spirit, and we all have spirits. If you are a spiritual person, or you believe in depth further than just this us being physical beings and having big biceps and stuff like that. If you feel like we're levels deep, then it'll apply to everyone. Honestly, everyone. Yeah, it's such a good book.
That's amazing, man. It's just basically, I mean, there's a bunch of things you said there as well, but the way I look at it is like it's ancient knowledge is a lot of all that stuff we're coming back to in the modern world. Like, we think we're so evolved. We think we're such a amazing civilization right now. And like, in a lot of ways we are for sure. But then we're losing a lot of the values that have got us, or rather we have distorted a lot of the values that have got us where we are, or we've forgotten what they are. So this is why, like, for example, I kind of see Jordan Peterson as almost like he's like a priest, or like, maybe like in Islamic terms, he's like an imam for this secular community, because everybody's looking for that guidance that he provides. A lot of what he provides is grounded in Christianity, but also because he's a clinical psychologist and a scientist, people give him a lot more credibility. And he's marrying the personality psychology along with a history of religious kind of religious values and stuff, and everybody's just like buying into it and didn't realize that this is the kind of thing that they're missing. So it's crazy how, like, it doesn't matter where it's come from, those values can be applicable through the ages. So
absolutely,
like the kind of stuff you're talking about, like nurturing a community, like thinking of yourself, act right for yourself, like the Stoics they talk about the same sort of thing, I think.
Absolutely.
And, it's just it makes a lot of sense that it still applies now, because that's what human beings need to thrive, is like kind of guiding principles.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Go on, bro.
I was just thinking, like you said, so we have this notion that because we're in 2020, we are the most advanced society, right? And then concepts 1400 years ago, or however many years ago, have lost its authenticity, and we justify it by saying things like, it's 2020. It's God, get with the ages, or get with the times, which I think is such a backward argument with the concepts that we're trying to go and dissociate with, like the idea of long term, or being honest and truthful, doing things the right way, and it comes in very little things. It comes in very little things in our life and day and age that we live in, but we use this argument of 2020, like get with the times. This is no longer applicable in our human daily lives, and those are the people that, and if you look at the Jordan Petersons of the world, essentially all they're doing is bringing that back up and applying it to our modern society, like those core values of being honest, or critical thinking, or being what is it to be a man, which is a conversation that I've been looking into recently. And almost we're losing that definition of, we're afraid to say these things nowadays because we're in 2020, which is so interesting to me. We're using time as a justification to kind of pull away from some just natural things as humans or spirits that we naturally are inclined to go towards.
Yeah, no, it's fair, man. It's quite a complicated question then as well, isn't it? It's like, is it just because it's 2020, does it mean that we are moving forward? Because the idea is that through time, things are supposed to get better. But they only get better if you actually are critical with yourself. And by extension, that goes out to your community, and then that goes out to further and further and further. Absolutely. And but then there's also, and there's shit that happens which wipes out some history as well. Like there's half a dozen cataclysmic events in the history of this earth that we know about, and civilizations get wiped out, and we don't know what they had, and all the knowledge that was kept there and stuff, and we just go off these like little scraps that they leave behind, and that's just physical evidence. But what about all the shit like that got burnt up?
Joe Rogan podcast in a second.
Like, well, this is what we're about, man. It's just like talk about anything
talk about the Egyptians and the lost societies and all the underground sea societies. Yeah, that stuff is interesting though. I would imagine discovering that kind of stuff. But it's true. It's so true.
Yeah, I mean, like Umar, you had something you wanted to say, but I'm quite curious about what you said about becoming a man and what you've been talking about that.
So the author. Yeah, go.
Go.
No,
I
go.
thought you were queuing me up there. Stay on that. Stay on that topic. So, bro, you go. It's your podcast. Let's go.
Okay, so I totally interrupted you there. But so the same author, Norman Ali Khan, he talks about this stuff a lot, about the responsibility of a man in a household and this kind of stuff. And a lot of people would say these are back-end kind of concepts that men should be running the house and men should be so on and so forth. But again, I think these are certain things. What is it to be a man? And I think as men in this society, we're losing that, right? Men back in the day who used to live with honor and honesty and stuff like that were real men, and what I would say were actual men that we can look up to and go, right, these are the things that we can start to implement in our lives right now. Whereas in 2020, as we further down the road, all we're trying to do is dissociate from some of these qualities of men, of taking responsibilities, of being the men of the house. And of course, we have these certain things that are actually quite good. We're talking about men should be more open about their emotions and so on and so forth. But I guess there's a certain point to where we start to blur the lines and go, oh, men and women, they should be exactly the same, and throw that out there because it's 2020, equality is what we want. And then we start to lose these definitions. We start to blur the lines of what is a woman in terms of what is her innate qualities and what do women bring to the table that are unique, in which they are compared to men. What are men in terms of, do we just merge the two and go, oh, everybody should be emotional. We talk about men should not have responsibilities. Women should be running the houses and all that kind of stuff. And neither am I saying no, all those things are wrong or right. But I'm just saying we start to blur the lines and we're pulling away from certain things that are just natural. Like, we're all unique. We're all very, very different. But men and women especially. The argument in 2020 is just so topical right now is we should be the same. We should be exactly the same. And I'm all for equality. Absolutely all for it. But then don't try and blur the lines and tell me that we're exactly the same. And that's where we lose some of those ancient concepts of the difference is actually a good thing. We should embrace those differences.
Yeah, man.
It's really interesting. Really interesting. Like you almost feel like this is kind of losing your way to find your way. I hope that's kind of the way, because I don't know. I'm not much of a historian, but I don't know how this argument has been portrayed back through history. Whether we've been if I think about it, we've probably been quite typecast in terms of what men do or what women do. But this is probably one of the first times, I don't know, maybe it's happened before, but one of the first times where it's this polarized, where people kind of are like women and men are completely the same. But I don't know, what do you think will be the outcome of this topic of conversation? Do you think it will be a case that we realize that a male lion versus a female lion, they both clearly have their own advantages, but can we respect that they are completely different but valued in the same way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of that's the way I'm thinking about it. What do you think, bro?
I think just shoving. What does Jordan say? What does he say? Square pegs in circles or something like that. Just trying to force things into positions that they shouldn't be. And I'm all for, like I said, all for equality and this kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense for us to try and say that women are incapable of doing such things. That's never the argument, and never should be the argument. And we know through history that women have been the first to open universities, especially in Islamic history. Women have had, ridiculous, their roles, or they play their roles in the religion or just spreading the religion and understanding or building communities have been massive, right? But where do we go from, or what will the result be of just us going, we're all the bloody same, and we should just neglect the unique differences? I feel like it might come to a position where there's a rude awakening, and then we recognize that these differences are a good thing, that we should embrace these unique differences that men and women bring to the table. And yeah, I mean, we're moving very fast towards it, to kind of neglecting some of these things. But I think, like I said, a rude awakening is just something that we'll tend to accept, and we'll come to.
Have you seen Incredibles? Have you seen Incredibles? Wicked film. Incredibles 1, right? Syndrome, bad guy, when he's like, we'll make everybody super, and then the line is, we'll make everybody super, so no one will.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, everybody wake up, please. This is not the way to do it. Incredibles told us this 2000,
exactly.
Right? 20 years later, we're still trying to make everybody super. So,
absolutely. God, what a reference. That was amazing.
That's the one. That's what
Be
came
incredible.
to mind. You inspired that, bro.
But but no, that's true. It's like, it does happen. Is like, if you try and make everybody the same, you are going to have that rude awakening, and that rude awakening tends to be a shit ton of violence, right? So if like you take that to its logical conclusion, you end up having a communist society, let's say, and what's ever happened whenever you've had a communist society is just this been mass killings, and so that they could eventually get out of that kind of situation, right? And then there's the other thing, which is, again, like Jordan Peterson has been great about bringing that to awareness, but like reading about it as well, the more egalitarian you make a society, so the more equality that you have, the more differences there are between, so we're talking about men and women, there's more differences between men and women, because those biological differences come through even more. So the more you create, at least trying to create an equal footing, the more those differences come through. And it's yeah, so you have to respect the fact that we are different. So in terms of like, you asked that question, what's the outcome of where does this go? The way I look at it is like, if it keeps going this way, yeah, it's going to be a rude awakening, but also it basically has no grounding. There is no truth behind the fact that we are exactly the same. So whether it's scientific, whether it's objective, whether it's just looking at people, there is just no truth in that. So that's not going to go very far, and it will just be a period where you just go, oh, that was a little bit silly. that we tried to try to force everybody to be like treated exactly the same, because you're just not.
We're just not.
And it's actually like the whole notion of it is very backwards as well. So because you don't respect the individual that way, and what do people cry out for more and more these days is actually being recognized as an individual. And it's a weird thing when you go down that path, that it actually pushes people to try and be recognized more as an individual.
That makes a lot of sense, because Bilal, what you referenced earlier about square pegs and round holes, you kind of feel like somebody's coming to the party being like, I'm a female, recognize that I'm a female, and I want to be the same as you as a male. It's like, well, come with your individuality, come with your individuality as a female, and we'll recognize that individuality. Like, I'll see your person, I see your human being, but what does that represent? How does us playing on that ground move us forward as much as dividing gender roles has moved us forward? You know what I mean? Like, can we like hold a court for understanding how we've arrived where we currently are, and then from there, can we see what advantages / disadvantages there are around making everything the same, everything playing field the same? Like, how do we now progress? Like, where do we now make movement? You know what I mean? That's like a bit more logical than I think some of these people are. So I don't know if they're capable. So we need to go and get out there and nurture those dreams.
Get in the community. Get stuck in the community, eh?
Okay, so this is a question I want to ask you, bro. Is you mentioned this book earlier, taking it back to the book, and you talked about how the preface of the book was talking about how it's about you. It's about the reader. Internalize this. Can you share with us some messages that you took from the book about yourself and things that you want to address, things that you realized, and how did that realization make you feel?
That's a good question. Many lessons. I'd say the one thing that he touches on a lot is this notion of that instant gratification. And we all struggle with it. We all struggle with it because of the society we live in. And I always come back to this because I think it's one of the things that affects everyone just almost as equally, because of the things that we deal with on a daily basis. So, the social media, the travel, whatever we can get our hands on, we can get Amazon Prime, for example. Everything is immediate. And of course, he talks from it in a spiritual perspective about how when we ask God or whatever you like to believe in, whatever you feel like is a higher power, or even just you're an individual who just feels like they want something, or there is a necessity, or you feel like inside. And for all of us, we're all in business, and so we can understand this. You want to get to places where you project images or you project goals, and then you think, I want to get there. But what happens when we don't get there? Or what happens when we start to live in the moment, worried so much about getting somewhere where we don't move from where we are right now? So we're so occupied by wanting to be all the way there, a few years ahead of yourself, that in this moment we're suffering. Essentially, our existence is a suffering because we're not where we exactly want to be. But then what happens when we get to that point? Do you think it's going to be all rainbows and sunshines? Or do you think you'll go replay that cycle because your psychology was essentially on a foundation of when I get to somewhere, or when I'm so occupied without being, I want it right now. I just want it right now. But when you get there and then that long time elapses, what happens? So it's a mixture of, I want something right now, then I'm going to suffer in existence right now because I've not got where I want to be. And so there's that managing both. How would you manage both? Or how can you understand, okay, look, I've set my goal and I'm just starting, I'm very young in this business world. So I've just started, right, what is my goal for the next 6 months? And this is very like numbers wise. Okay, I want to revenue this much. Now, do I sit here and go worry sick to myself about putting that much money or getting that much money? Or do I just in this moment, just put all faith in my hard work and get to that level of whatever I want to get to? That's one aspect. Or do I sit here and suffer and worry to myself that, oh, I need to hit this number. And if I hit this number, I'll be set for life and I can do this as a full-time gig and so on and so forth. So there's that balance of that instant gratification and then living in the moment of just pure suffering. And of course, there's a spiritual aspect to it in how you ask. And it's not a McDonald's order. It's not an Amazon Prime order. You've got to put in the work. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that was a massive awakening. And I didn't think it was a big of a problem for me. I can understand patience. I can understand that kind of stuff. When you start doing things that are uncomfortable, like going into business and fending for yourself and not having a job to rely on, you think to yourself, it starts to expose some things about yourself. So the book really touched on this for me. Really did.
Nice. That's really interesting. It makes you kind of think like you've almost got to address those things before you address the business. You know
Absolutely. I mean? Absolutely. You are your business. You are your business. Yeah. Exactly. You reflect, everything here reflects back into your business. That impatience or that the sporadic random choices that you make out of fear and stuff like that, it shows in your business. You have those little successes, but it's a direct reflection of you. And so you're very right. You have to address those things during or before that journey starts, because like we know this, and we know this. It's whatever we build or wherever we nurture up in here, it just starts to throw itself in front of you. And it'll take you a while to recognize. It definitely did for me, because I'm just natural. I worry about things, and this is something I've recognized as well. And the book did start to point this out. If I'm going to do something, I'll worry about it. Instagram post, worry about it. Absolutely. And I'm fine admitting it because I know this about myself now. But then how do I manage worry, or how do I understand that? Where is this an illogical fear, or is this something that's taking me away from the current moment right now? And yeah, man, that was a big slap to the face almost. I was like, shit, I do worry a lot, don't I? You know what I mean? And so we all worry, but there are levels to it.
Yeah, man. That's nice. Yeah, that's cool. I think that's that's salient as well for the current times as well. Instant gratification versus going for a goal, managing that gap between the two of like where you are right now, where you need to be. That's always the case though, because it's human drive as well to just move forward. You have to, otherwise, staying still is dying basically. So then if you are, and we're lucky in that we have this part of our brain which is developed to allow us to think logically and plan ahead, which is a lot better than a lot of other creatures. So we have that part of us which can get reward from planning. So if you don't do that, then that whole thing about what you're talking about, which is I'm somewhere where I'm not want to be, and I want to be here. And then, okay, I've got to lay out the path to get there. But then what happens when I actually get there? Do I feel like I did 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever I set that goal? Because now this is my new normal. And does that feel as satisfying as I thought it was going to be? So if you don't manage your expectation to that, then you are never going to be happy. You're never going to be at least experiencing a certain level of contentment that you've achieved something. And you've got to be able to express that, otherwise quality of life just kind of diminishes as well. So it's important to keep chasing, but it's also important to appreciate that journey and appreciate the process every time you move forward and step forward, and so that you don't have that experience of, oh, I got here, now what? This is not.
Here's a question. Does getting there even exist? Right, from the perspective of quality, sure, it exists. Revenue, number of employees, what am I doing, my business, number of clients, etc. That works, cool. It's quantitative, we can define that. But when let's say you tick all those boxes, and we talk from an emotional standpoint, does that really exist? Or is that also part of the journey? Because the time doesn't stop there, does it? And this is something I always recognize. Like when I get my university results, cool, I felt great. But then the time just carries on, and you didn't ever reach there. Like it never stopped there. So does there, or getting to that point or that milestone, ever really exist? And you can celebrate it. You can lap up in the moment, of course. But does it really exist? Is my question. Because time carries on. You're present in that moment. We always talk about presence, and I've seen some of your other podcasts and how you talk about just being present in the moment. But celebration to certain milestones. Is there really putting so much on one moment? It almost seems illogical if we consider time for a second. Like, it just continues. Like my thought process will continue after I've hit that. So that's really interesting, because will you ever hit those milestones and be able to live in those? You can't, because it doesn't stop there, does it?
Exactly. Well, that's why we're always about the process, right? So Umar's hitting home every single time. It's about the process. Your life becomes a process, because if you're just about the destination, you're going to get there and you're going to realize, well, there's somewhere else I got to be now. So it's always moving, right? And there's that juxtaposition between the most elated moments in your life, like, you know, for some people that would be getting married, having your first child, to the most devastating moments where it's like could be losing a loved one. Time still moves on, right? Everything moves on, whether you are elated or whether you are devastated. It's always moving forward. So there's, you know, you got to be able to learn how to respond to those things. Respond is a word I use as opposed to react, because reactive just puts you on the back foot, but responding is like being proactive, right? And that's not to say that you know, you don't live in those moments as well, because talking about being present, you want to be able to take stuff in, but it's about you got to put that bit in the context of moving forward, because that's what's always happening. Shit's always moving.
And that's part of your journey, right? That moment of you celebrating and experiencing the win. It's just another part of your moment. And 6 months down the line, when you look back at that, oh, that was also part of the journey. I remember when I did that. And that was also part of your journey, that big win.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So it never ceases to freeze in time. So you can say, at this moment, I was this. Because you continue, you continue to present, you experience life, and you continue. So it's never a pause in one moment.
No, that's true. I agree with that. I think you referenced Jordan Shallow earlier, right? He says this thing which is like a fluid definition, right? So he goes into, like, you guys, a few weeks he talked about core. When he talked about core, he mentioned sometimes the core 4, or like kind of the anterior core, sometimes he calls it, and then more of a posterior core, right? So it's a fluid definition. You asked if getting there is even a thing. It's like, it is, but it isn't, because it is for a moment. It is in the quantities that you mentioned it. So like our revenue, and I've hit these quotas, and I've made this sale, and that was my target. But then it isn't, because you could get there, but like you said, like you mentioned earlier with this book, you could have got there in a means that you're not happy with spiritually. So you haven't got there. You're not there. You know what I mean? Like, kind of in one essence, you've filled some of your bar chart kind of, but then this stuff is all just lacking over here. You're that PES player who has that circle, but like you've got a big ass point over here, but you got like your defense is just shit, right? So it's like it's always like this. It's like that thing that just does this, right? It's like, I've nearly got it, but not really. But that's it. That's the process, right? You've got to be able to be happy, like G says, all the time in the moment. And that this is something that I touched on this week massively. Was like, I was training and went back into a gym, right? So you get back into that, and this is a thing that I definitely think females pick up on, right? You know, that the meathead mentality in the weight section. So the dumbbell corner, as the gyms have, right? Yeah. And you go there, everyone's like, giving it this, sorry, bro. Right? And it's like, why? But why are you giving it that? Like, what does that mean? Because everyone watches Animal, like, the Animal brand. I don't know if you know this, G, but like, have you heard of Animal? Have you heard of Animal Nutrition, or I think they call it Animal Nutrition? They're basically a protein brand, right? Protein supplement company, and they're always marketed as like in the trenches and like black and white, and like I've got clothes on that have holes in because I've been training so hard. I don't really know, right? But yeah, exactly. So
or is it because the staff is eating through it?
Yeah, it's like I haven't washed in years. But the thought process going through people's mind when they look at that is that, I need to go to the gym and I need to be that guy. I need to be, because when I do that, I'll be like Evanson Tapani and I'll be massive as well. It's like, no, you need to practice the rep you want to do in your life also. Like, be aware that you being miserable here means that when you walk out of here, whenever there's a problem, sometimes you just meet it with misery. So true. It's like, can we be fully aware that I'm happy that I get to train in the gym? I have these dumbbells here. They're all organized nicely for me. This is like a conveyor belt of gains. I'll make it from 2 to 25, and all of a sudden I'll be more jacked than I was when I was at 2. So it's a case of meeting the obstacle with happiness, and meeting the obstacle with like, I can be in this moment and be happy where I am, and be thankful that, 1 rep in, sweet, next rep in, I get to do 7 more of these, wicked. That's why I feel like I felt like I was there this week, where I checked myself almost like I finished a set, put the dumbbell down, and I was like, I looked around, I was like, it's great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy I'm back in the gym. This is so great. At the moment, I looked around, I was like, no one else is doing that. And almost like I wanted to be a bit more especially these times, right? COVID, everyone's scared of each other. Everyone's getting a pump from wiping the machines more than they're actually training. So he's just like, guys, can we actually like get back to the right reason why we're here? No word of a lie. The gym, I'm not going to shout them out because they're going to get embarrassed by this, right? But there was a lady in the gym, lovely lady called Wendy, who I went and spoke to afterwards, right? She had a trolley, bro, a trolley in the gym, pushing around squeezy, like to put on the machines and wipe it down after people get off. And she's legit with a trolley in the gym, like she's at Sainsbury's, about to go buy some cake. Like, what's going on here? Is this the new normal? I don't want trolleys in my gym. No trolleys in my gym, right? This is bonkers. Yeah. It's just like, what is going on? But yeah, I just think that in that context, checking yourself and being aware of what rep you're doing in the moment is so vital, especially in this area that we're all involved in, health and fitness, where people can get so detracted by like gruff and kind of like rough, and it's not needed. It's not productive.
Unnecessary, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But don't you think the marketing there is quite smart, that appeals to our very nature of being aggressive men and the animalistic 100%. Behavior? You know, I train at home alone now, right? And I tell you what, change the game for me. Nobody around you. There's no reason to. And we all do this. I was thinking of making like a parody video of this, where you work out, you do your bench press set, you get up, and for some God knows reason, you start to look around and you start to what was it? What he's doing, because you know you have a little pump and you feel like masculine for whatever reason at the moment.
Ooh, I feel good.
And you start scouting the gym for no apparent reason. But now I'm in my garage, it just doesn't happen. I've got nobody to scout for myself. God damn it. I'm just like, but it just brings you to that moment. Like, what's happening? Was I doing that set for me, or was I doing that set for that bloody person who's looking at me so I can get up off this set and just go give him eye contact after? Do you get it? It's just it's so true, man. Oh my God.
True.
I'll tell you something though, you want to use that because when you've got like, so for men, right, if there's another woman around, your testosterone goes up, so you're going to actually get a better training session going on. Like it happened to me. I'm not joking, it's 100% true. And I've got at least one case study for this as well. So yeah, a few years ago when I was training, it was brilliant. I was training my client and we used to do this circuit, right? It was I'd been training him for a while, so he built up a lot of like baseline so that he could do like a power endurance circuit, basically. So we just smashed out like here's a strength exercise, here's a power exercise, a strength exercise, is a power exercise to go with it, and we just used to do the second. He just loved it because he was just going full tilt, full ham for that one session a week, and so we had this set up, and we had we had times as well. So it's like, okay, you did this in like 3.5 minutes last time. Let's see if we can get 3:25, and like, just push it each time a little bit. Let's see how far you go, depending on how he's feeling. And then one day his wife comes along, and she's waiting for him. And she's like, oh, I'm a little bit early, but I'll just sit in the corner and just like, watch the last 20 minutes of the session. He fucking annihilated the workout, man. It was like, here's your 330 PR, it was out to like 245 in like one session. And he was dead. Yeah. He was finished, man. He just lay there. And she was like, oh man, look at him go. And I was like, he only did that because you're here.
Is that
fantastic? I love the guy, man.
He's
a wicked client of mine as well, like super cool dude. Like both of them were really nice people as well, and we got along really well. And then it was just that one time that was like, okay, this is a very real thing. Like I know about it, but I've seen it happen.
Does that count as a PED then? Just having female audience?
Yes.
And you get
got the ring girls at UFC, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're there.
That has to have
I want to see that come up as an excuse one day when they're doing like when they do the piss test and they're like, oh yeah, you've come back all positive, and it's like, it's because the woman who took my test was hot, man. we need to do this again. Just bring like 50-pound ugly motherfucker next time, please.
Imagine your testosterone dips.
Yeah, the opposite. How would we know? You should be competing in the men's division.
But it's true, it impacts you. But Umar mentioned something there about meeting the obstacle with either joy or happiness and stuff like that. And imagine if you just met the obstacle with another obstacle, which is the aggression that you can't really carry over to your lifestyle. That is so interesting. That is so interesting. Because if I'm doing a set of 8 to 10 reps, then the first thing that I'm doing is going to a place of aggression and thinking, squeeze harder, do everything. And then every now and then there'll be a session where I dip into this calm in the storm kind of thing, where my legs are shaking, I'm absolutely gassed, but I'm just controlling my breathing and I'm just floating through this set. And I'm still dying, absolutely. I'll collapse right afterwards, and that's good. But there is this little thing of going, I'm okay, I'm absolutely fine. Just breathe. This isn't aggression. Aggression is not needed here. It's not necessary. But I totally know that moment that you're talking about, where you're just kind of like, it's okay. I'm just gonna carry on rowing now. I'm just gonna carry on. I've got this. This is all good. I like doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's really powerful, man.
So legit. Calm in the storm. I love that, because there's genuinely been times that both you will attest to this, because like doing jits, doing stand up, doing boxing, doing whatever, and you're like,
super tense.
I'm so tired now. now. Like everything's just out, right? Whereas you're just there and you're flicking this and you're flicking and moving here and stepping out, and it's oh shit, this is easy. I can do this all day long. And there you go, Captain Brown. And I
can do this all day.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think that's a state that in itself is meeting the obstacle with the wrong answer. And your body's telling you, like, yes, there's a certain level of stamina that's involved, some level of awareness that's involved. But I think once those things are loaded in, and then you still meet the obstacle with the wrong answer, it's a case of like what you're doing right now, Bilal, is taking yourself away from the environment that produces the wrong wrong answer, right? And you're removing yourself from the gym where we know all the obstacles there, and you're putting yourself in your white painted, completely like neutral environment,
garage,
which is all you're going to see is a sparrow like in the corner one day. Like that's like looking at you like when you sweet pub, bro. Like that's it. You know what I mean? Like that's
do you appreciate it? Do you appreciate it?
Just like
to my fans.
You see these guys? Yeah. And but that's the thing. It's so funny. Like UP for me was that times a billion, like so much. Sometimes you look at it and you'd be like, the ego is dripping out of this place right now, and it's just not helping anyone. And it's just, oh man, I again, you get lost in that because you're there, because you're doing it, because you want to be the best at it. You know, flip this switch so hard, like the Malik ego. Bro, we know all about that, right? And it's paramount to the nose. It's like the longer the nose, the bigger the ego.
I got away with that. I didn't get the nose. If you do a side profile,
skated the nose.
I escaped.
Not so much. Like,
Mount Olympus.
Gotta tame this beast. Yeah.
Have I got some Malik in me? Because I've got a freaking strawberry on my face, man. I got a giant strawberberry on my nose.
We gotta do a side profile.
Oh yeah, he's coming along. He's loaded. He's loading. In construction.
Good into the Malik.
Yeah.
I love that.
We're gonna bust it as a Punjabi at some point in this podcast. Viewers will definitely appreciate that. Sometimes
I think so. So.
No. I lost my train of thought now. It's gone.
Obstacle. Meeting the obstacle.
Yeah, meeting the obstacle.
UP, ego dripping out.
UP, yeah. And then you stop and think, and you just look around. And you think, I don't know if this is the right way. And then I remember meeting one of my best friends, Dan Miles, and the way he would approach things is he summarized stress for me one day. And the first time I heard it, it went so far over my head. I had no idea what was going on. He said to me, internal ideals met with external realities. And I was like, oh, okay. So internally, I would like this set to be my everything. Once I do one curl, my bicep best be 24 inches. But really, I'm like, oh, I'm struggling for this, but I'm not getting it. And I'm just getting more and more pissed off. But the external reality is that I must do this for the next 20 years for achieving what I want to achieve. But the internal ideal is that I make one effort. And like you mentioned, instant gratification, I ping, microwave goes off, and I'm Mr. Olympia. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. And I think there's so many stations in life where I think that can be better instilled, whether it be with kids, whether it be through the schooling process, whether it be parents and friends and whatever. But I think because it's not, we get to a place in our lives where we're at UP and we are smashing ourselves into the ground. And then looking around to other people like, have you seen my gains? Because I can't see them. Like, they're not here yet. Can you tell me where to go get them from? It's I genuinely think that's what that could be in doing. It's people being ultra frustrated, not realizing that right now you need to work on this. I need to be happy with this. I need to be totally content. And only in that contentment will you find your achievement. Outside of that, doesn't even exist. Like you said, bro. It's like Power of Now. We talk about Power of Now all the time. I love that book. I love that book. Like, literally daily. I think I play it daily. Play a verse from it. Play 8 minutes from it daily in my thing. Chapters 1, 2, 3 are the ones that speak to me the most. And it will just be like, it doesn't exist. Like future doesn't even exist. Like we're talking about it like it's gonna happen, but I use the expression all the time, like watching Final Destination, the plane's going to crash through the city any minute now, take out all of Leicester, be Bilal and Defo got to be gone, right? So what are we planning for? What revenue? What client? It's not going to happen, you know what I mean? So just be right here, right now. That's all you can do. As much emphasis as you can put right here, right now, I think the better.
That's it, the impact. You know, the quote that your friend told you, repeat the quote again.
I'm going to get it wrong. I hope I don't get it wrong, but internal ideals met with external realities.
So in the Power of Now, so okay, that makes a lot of sense. So he's saying that stress is essentially the difference, you could say. If you in a math equation, the way my brain works is the one minus the other.
That's
right.
It.
And so whatever makes up the difference would be stress. But the Power of Now talks about that, right? Where stress or emotions of why is this happening is essentially you just resisting the reality of a situation.
Yes,
it's pure resistance. Yeah, it's pure resistance of I want it to be like this, but it's not. And therefore, your only reaction is, like you said, frustration or anger, and that pulls you away so far from the moment that you never understand what contentment or actually living in the moment it feels like, because you've always either pictured it a certain way or the internal ideas. And that's the Power of Now goes into that quite a bit. He always touches on that the only way that you can, in a moment, decide to feel frustrated or angry or so on is can be summed up in one way. It's just resistance to whatever you're experiencing, or resistance to whatever is in you're experiencing in terms of reality. So something happens in your business or something happens outside your love life or whatever, and all you're doing is resisting the reality so much so that it leads to these emotions or negative emotions of just frustration and anger and so on and so forth. And that's massive. That is so important. Totally. You can recognize that in that moment. I go, I can't really control that. I can't really do anything here right now. I'm kind of helpless. And again, the book that we were talking about initially talks about that a lot. That whatever comes to you is that's it. It's just accept it. There's certain things it just is. It just there's no questioning it. There's no trying to justify it with your own reasons, because it just is in that relationship. But that definition is, I'm going to ask you to message me. I really like that.
I'm going to I'll get it off Dan. I'm speaking to Dan at some point this week. I'll get it off him properly, because the way he goes into it is fantastic. He put it to me a few times, and I think it's totally legit. Like having that. We know all about this, like aggression with something. And then again, because you've trained yourself to do it, when that moment didn't equal what you wanted it to equal, all you do is apply the same card. So I've got my one card, let me play it. And that playing is like, I'm holding on to this even tighter now. And I end up kind of losing my power, in the sense all I need to do is let go. Be here, be now. Be now. Realize, I think Eckhart Tolle, he uses the word isness. He's like, recognize the isness of what is going on right now. It sounds like an Arabic word, was it? Isness. But like,
add some throat to it. Isness. We got it.
The isness of being, because you can't substitute your own meaning and expect it to equal the right thing. It's like, no, this is what is. Just be what is. That's it. I think that could help a lot of people.
Yeah. I like looking at the Nature is Metal account on Instagram, right? So it's just so fucking brutal. But what I love about it is probably my favorite account, simply because it just shows you that it is just is. There is no good.
Bro, say the name of that again, because there's a bit of echo in the volume.
Oh right, Nature is Metal. Yeah, so that's so that's the Instagram account, right? And it just basically posts some bullshit. It will just basically show like a deer her baby has just dropped out of her, and a hyena just comes along and just takes it and just munches it, right? And she can't do nothing about it. And it's like pure raw shit.
I'm feeling that stuff. I'm still feeling that, G.
Exactly. You feel, man, it will toughen you up. I tell you that. You got to watch this. You're like, oh my God, this is so raw. But this is just is. There is no evil and there is no good there. It just is, because that's just the way nature operates, right? If it wasn't that way, then we don't have an ecosystem.
I would be the first guest to start crying on your podcast.
I'll come on and say, it's okay, bro. It's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah, good.
Exactly. Oh, man, honestly,
drive on over.
Right, I'll tell you the one that will make you cry. Right? Is there
Here
was
it goes. Let me prepare myself.
yeah. Oh man, it was a buffalo that was trying to get away, and I can't remember if it was a pack of wild dogs or what it was, but they were having a tough time bringing it down because it's a fucking buffalo. So they went and bit its nuts, and then this thing was just like just so much pain. And I was watching that, and obviously you're a dude, you start crossing your legs, you start holding your own balls and shit. And it was like, oh my god, this is so raw, but I can't take my eyes off of this. It's like, this is how they're bringing this buffalo down. They're gonna rip his nuts, literally just rip him off, and then they just start munching him because he's in so much pain, and he's just like, all right, I'm done.
That one.
Giving it. You remember that?
There's so many on there.
I'm so glad you imitated that. Gee, that made it a lot more bearable for me. Do that again. What was that sound, man?
So, right, we're expanding into buffalo impressions now as well.
There we go. No one is safe. No one is
so
safe.
glad you did that.
Surprising how good that is. I'll tell you, G, every week he does a better impression. That might take it.
Oh, God, that's brilliant. Even put the head down and everything. Oh, my Lord.
Giving it that one. It's getting bit of the nut.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of those moments where you remember a week after you just start giggling to yourself. That's going to be me in a week's time.
Next time you get a sweet pop in your garden, bro. That's going to happen.
It's going to remember Jesus' little buffalo impression.
Next time you hip airplane in the mode.
That's what I was going to say. You're in your last few reps. You're struggling, and you just got it's like you're struggling like that buffalo now.
Last got you by the balls, huh?
That's terrible.
Literally, man. That is literal. It's got you by the balls. What are you gonna do about it? It's like you gotta lay down.
Or just lay down and just do a G impression. I think I know which I'm going for.
Scary. The most wild one I ever saw on there, which is this is like, I saw this and I was gobsmacked. It was not as graphic as what you just said, bro. But this bison, bison that live out in the frozen winter, right? And one of them is getting hoarded by a pack of wolves. Like there's about 13, 14 wolves just like around him, snap. And this is a bison is a SUV, like massive vehicle of an animal, right? And he's just running. He's not being taken down here. He's still going. And the wolves are kind of snapping at him, and then you can see the wind kind of bluster. I don't know who's recording this because this is wild, right? And the person recording is like proper close as well. And this other bison just comes along and just whacks the bison, and you're like,
"What are you
goals for, mate? Why are you doing this?" This is like, and he just takes him out. The bison falls, and the wolves just jump on him. And the caption is, sometimes you got to sacrifice your own for the greater good.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Oh goodness me! I was like, really? You got to go out at this guy like that's how you're gonna take out? Literally, no. He straight Kamehameha's this guy. Like, ow! You're gonna straight up.
Street fight done.
Runs like he's thought about this a long time ago because they've been running for a while. The wolves have not just showed up now. He's like, I'm gonna take you out. You're running these wolves right to our home base or whatever. And he just plows through this bison like, you gotta go, man. Sorry, we made a decision, and you're out.
You're out, yeah. We volunteered you as tribute to them.
Exactly. Whatever it is, this. See you later, bro. You out. Try me.
Sometimes you see the comments as well, and people are just going, "Oh man, this is so mean," and and especially when you've got a cub who gets taken away, and the mom just carries on bowling around, and they're like, "Oh, how could you do that?" It's like, you have no idea, right? It's literally a matter of survival. It's not. Oh, how could she leave him? It's like, if you don't, everyone's done. Like your whole crew is gone. Your whole pack, whatever you want, whichever kind of creature it is.
Survival, man. Survival. Here's a question then. Survival, right? Animal kingdom, still very much in a state of survival, etc. So if in our day and age, where we live right now, is survival on our main, because it's something that I always battle with my brother, me and him to always discuss. Kind of like our parents came to this country, right? And it's off topic, but survival is the kind of the background of the nature of the question. They came to this country, didn't have any didn't have any choice really in some senses. They had to kind of do certain things to survive. Do you think we as a society, especially our generation now that we've got it, do you think survival is at the forefront, or how do you think survival then represents itself in the way we live our lives right now? If it's not the go job, hound 12 hours, go, we need to bring money, income, or whatever, but in terms of our emotional response to however we're living, what does survival look like for us?
That's a good question.
I got some thoughts. You fire away. You want to
go? You go first, man.
Okay. I think
I got different angles I could take it.
Yeah, same. It's really interesting. Really great question, man. That. I think it's again fluid, right? So what was the state of play when Auntie Zara and the dad came over?
Shout out, mom.
Shout out, mom. Yeah, shout out, Auntie Zara. Came over. What was the state of play of the world? Like, what was the dictations? The dictations were you got married now, have a family now, going to Valed, you're going to the maid world, right? Like Pocahontas getting off that ship, right? Like now you best make it, right? That's the only thing on people's minds. Leaving from Kenya, leaving from India, leaving from Pakistan, wherever you come from, obviously more western part of the world, everything as well. That's the definition of success, of making it. Today, the definition of success is how many followers you got on Instagram, how many followers you got there. Like I've got friends who have kids now, and that is like what game do you have? What label are you wearing? And that the subscription to that model equals how people live their lives now, I think. And survival or lack of survival is like, if I was a kid now, I remember being a kid, obviously in college or whatever, I would wear nothing of fashion. I would wear this to school. Like that would just be me, like proper ragtag, and like wouldn't give a shit. And as a result, you would your social standing would just fall down. So like survival in that sense is like, I've not survived. I'm not attractive to people. I'm not no one's kind of looking at my way of life being, oh, that's amazing. And I think it's different strokes are different sects of people. So our parents would look at us and want us to emulate what they didn't have. So that's to them is survival. Like you've made it. You've gone to university. We never had the chance to do that. You've got a business. Wow, you've done this. Well, you're very, very, really thrived. Whereas, again, linking it back to like KSI, none of us are thriving in his world, are we? Because we haven't got mansions, we haven't got a billion followers. We're not fighting Joe Weller next February. You know what I mean? Like that's what do you think? Is that where your conversation usually goes, bro? And G, what were you thinking?
Let's hear G's thought. I want to hear what G said.
Yeah, I think of it on the level that we in Western civilization, at least, there's a lot of us are lucky enough to not have to worry about survival. So that's not on the agenda. So when that happens, because I'm thinking like, okay, survival is you want to be able to put food, shelter, you want to put food on the table, you want to have shelter, you want to be like you're okay. That's completely taken for granted now. So that is that's basically, for a lot of people, that's just not an issue anymore. So then when you move away from survival, it creates something else that you have to look into to be able to move forward in life. So when you have survival, you're not thinking about anything else except for making sure that you're alive the next day in whatever that looks like. So if, our parents' generations would be, I just need to make it so that my kids are going to have a future. And that is a very real driving force, because if they don't survive, then their lineage doesn't survive, right? Whereas us, we don't, that's a luxury. We don't think about that anymore. So we are just thinking about, well, we're not actually, this is why. So I've got another point about that, which is we're physically, we don't have to survive, but mentally we're trying. We a lot of people are drowning, so we're still trying to survive. So because it's so in a sense it's a complicated thing, because we've moved away from that. So what do we have to do now to make sure that life has a meaning and purpose? Is what we actually have to lay out what meaning and purpose is to us now. And so many people float by without actually thinking about what is purposeful for them, what is meaningful for them, that now on a mental level, they're always in survival mode. So there's high anxiety, there's high depression, there's just to name a couple of things, or there's always like a state of mental dis-ease, let's put it that way. So because depression can be quite clinical. That can be pretty rough, but there's also like low grade levels where people could probably do something about it. But because that base level of thinking of just surviving is gone, you have to really think about what you got to do now. And so it creates this disconnect. And so we're kind of like mentally trying to survive when and not looking at the question that we really need to ask ourselves is, okay, well, now that we're done with that, how do I make it so that I'm not just surviving, like I'm thriving now as well. So like for me, meaning and purpose thing that has been lost on a lot of people, and then you kind of just live through a bit of a haze. And so I think in essence, basically is we don't have to, there's a lot of people in the world now who don't have to worry about survival, and that creates another issue of its own. And so there's that kind of idea of, the way I've just put it is just, you have to, you're mentally surviving, you're kind of drowning because you just don't know how to deal with that. It's not necessarily a conscious thing. But when you start to really think about it consciously, you can push beyond just like now feeling like you've got to mentally survive and actually mentally thrive. And then you'll be able to physically thrive even better as well, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting. I think what trying to compare like what our parents went through when generations previous to us, as well as us. So I kind of picture it to this nature of our parents didn't have time to address a lot of things that that we have time to address, because they didn't have the time to go, right, I want to listen into what am I feeling like today? So let me wake up and let me address my emotions today. And I'm doing it in that voice because that's kind of how our parents would see us in an environment where we go, how do I feel today? I just want to, what are my emotions saying to us? What's my intuitive feeling? Then I kind of, for us, it's kind of like, okay, you're walking through the city center, you have a little hustle and bustle. Our generation is put the headphones on, boom, block everything out, because we don't have to deal with all of that necessary stuff of survival and putting food on the table. And so that brings us a lot of time, a lot of thinking space, and a lot of facing the truth, but we're not facing it. So essentially what it comes down to is, cool, so we don't have to go fend for ourselves, and we're in a good country and so on and so forth. The last thing that we think about is the next meal, right? We're instead thinking about the next like that we're going to get on our picture. And so what we've done is we've pulled away from certain aspects of, let me address emotion because I've got the time now. But then we've also got every single thing to distract us from addressing our very own, like you said, mentioned conscious. So what is it that we are genuinely inclined to do? So if today I'm feeling a certain way about myself, and we can go to depression or whatever it might be, but just feeling a certain way about yourself, what people tend to do, and I've definitely done this, is we crack on social media, or we go onto YouTube, or we'll go onto a podcast, and we'll drown the crap out of whatever we're feeling or those thoughts. We're having that honest conversation with ourselves. And that can put you in, and that's not very healthy. It's doing the opposite of what we should be doing. And of course, our parents didn't have this. They were going for survival. And if we blank that out, okay, we don't have that in our equation. We don't have survival. We just have time to listen to podcasts, go to the gym, come back home, sit with your other half and whatever. We don't have that to worry about. We can get an easy, decent paid job, live in a flat, and you're good. But then the thing that we're missing is addressing those thoughts, being very honest with ourselves. And I think COVID has definitely been a time for every single one of us to sit down and go, right, honest conversation time, but we just don't do that enough. And so without survival in the equation, we just have a lot of time. Now, but the thing is, with time, we also have a lot of other distractions because of the technology that we're living in, or the age of technology that we're living in. We can quite easily, and again, I know people that do this, where they just, in this vicious cycle, and I've done this myself, absolutely done this myself. Wake up, first thing I do is go on my phone and check my notifications, instead of dropping the phone and going, was that a good sleep? How am I feeling today? Cool. Let's get on with the day, and let's attack the day, and let's be reactive, and let's respond, right? But then all I'm doing is just drowning out emotions, or drowning out certain things that I should be addressing that I'm not. And I think our generation just isn't doing that anymore. We're just so afraid to sit with our own thoughts that we always have to have something on. The amount of stimulation that we get from certain things, we're afraid to just drop the phone and go, right, I'm sat here on my own now. What am I going to do with this time? And that is powerful shit. And and somebody I follow on Instagram, and he always talks about inner work, like journaling and just having conversations with yourself and manifestation and all these things. But all those things really are just you sitting with yourself and coming to terms with, what don't you like about yourself? What do you like about yourself? What should we change? And what's remarkable about all of this is the answers are just here. But it takes a lot of balls for you to just go, let me look inside. And so survival for us is kind of doing away with the distractions and addressing our emotions, because we've been given the gift for us is time. We literally have so much of it, but we're distracted. We're just so highly stimulated. We're distracted, and that we just don't have those honest conversations anymore. And for our parents, it was depression doesn't exist. Go bloody get your ass in a job. For us, depression exists, but I don't want to do anything about it. I don't want to address anything. I just want to go drown myself on social media and live this way. For our parents, drowning was, let me go earn some money and let me go do that. So it's just switched. We've kind of gone, we'll take that out. Let's throw in some Instagram, some Facebook, some of this, some of that, and go for it. Just don't have those honest conversations anymore.
Yeah, no, you put that really nicely, man. I think there's a lot of truth. It's just go on.
So it sounds like in both instances, it's the same thing we were discussing earlier. So like you're using the time, either you're working with it or you're social mediaing with it, and you're not using the time to do the right thing, to introspect. So it's a case of, it's right back to that same thing, a case of misusing the time to cloud yourself with the wrong endeavor of your efforts. You know what I mean? Like, and that it only leads to the same product, right? It leads to the same product again and again and again and again and again. You reinforce that. You end up reinforcing that so much that our parents will tell us to go do the same thing they did. It's like, well, I don't think you're actually happy with the product of what you've made. So now you want me to go do the same thing? I don't think so. Like I have to go. I have to question. I have to check this. And it's we are born out of them. You know what I mean? So we see where they potentially made it and also didn't make it. So we need to adjust and pivot accordingly. Otherwise, we'll end up making the same mistakes. Like well, I'm seeing the same thing of like generational issues. My client Hemel, shout out to Hemel, sent me this thing this week where it was like either you're fighting a repeat of what was before you, or you're fighting the break of the cycle. And actually, no, it was Amra who said this to me. My sister said this to me a long time ago, but Hemel sent me something very similar this week. And it was, you have those choices. Either you're fighting to break, or you're fighting to stay within the same confines. And either way, it's a struggle both ways. Definitely.
Definitely a struggle. Absolutely, man.
You're right. And again, that's taking a level of self-awareness, right? Because you got to look at, like, you don't necessarily even have to look at what's happened generations past. You just got to know that what you don't want and what you do want, and or what sits right with you and what doesn't. And a lot of stuff you can inherit that bullshit as well. So you got to take it upon yourself to just change that cycle. It's like, okay, this is the history. This is the history of my family. All right, I see it. I'm going to do something different. And
it's so interesting that we think like that, right? We think, all right, this is what I've witnessed in my childhood. This is so, and we all have been there in some certain cases. And we say unequivocally to ourselves, my kids are not going to experience this. Nope, I'm not going to put them through that. But what also happens is we're so involved in the environment, or we're so kind of enveloped in the environment, and that we start to resist. And we talked about earlier, what is up here will manifest itself into reality. But it's also, so it stands true that whatever you try to resist and you're thinking about and you're constantly like, I don't want this, you end up falling into the trap of living through that exact same existence, because you've done nothing to try and reverse or break the cycle. Instead, you just told yourself, I need to get out of this, I need to do something different. And in that time being spent of saying, resisting the actual thing, which is what you're focusing on, and you're actually basically bringing up to reality and manifesting into your reality, is you fall into the same trap. And I see this so much within people so close to around me, and Umar will also mention that they said the same things when they were kids. They said, I don't want this from what this person did previous generation to mine. I'm just not having it in mind. But then they go do the exact same thing, add a filter, look different, and it's the same thing. It's just masked, or what, camouflage, I don't know what you'd call it, but it's just there. It's the exact same thing, but it's wrapped up in something that looks a little different. And they're sat there with the impression that it's something different. And the trap is that they never did the healing work. They never did the inner work. They just did the outside work. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what you get that impression. I don't know if it's going to be a bit of a sad example, but it's true. When you visit family, like say someone's passed away, and you have that moment where you're in a room full of people that you are in some ways related to, family, friends, distant relatives, whatever. And you maybe see one other person who's done the work and you're like, oh shit, there's the light. Like, everybody look there, him. The person over there. Like, let's all gather around and like maybe they can help us.
Ask him.
Yeah, but then you also see an abundance of people that are just shuffling along the same way, all the way to diabetes and to judgment and to not looking, any kind of introspection, not actually routine, all of this stuff that we talk about endlessly. I mean, I've been smiling to the podcast so many times because Bilal's bringing up the same stuff that we talk about so much, and I love it because it just affirmation that this kid gets it and that we also in some ways get it. And I can't wait for this stuff to go more mainstream because I think we're starting something proper. It makes me super excited because just from one conversation, what was it? Is this a 20th episode?
Episode 20, man.
Jeez.
You are number 20.
Number 20.
I like it.
That's like this is the level of like ascension. You know what I mean? Like I feel really proud. And this my sister touches on it a few times. Like she talks about our generation, as in Bilal, his brother Amar, our cousin Hasib, his brother Habib, and I'm gonna include TJ in that as well. I feel like we're breaking the cycle. I feel like we're strong enough in our faith to hold our flag in the sand and say, no, we do what we need to do. So we qualify in those sections, but we've also taken that magnifying glass and pointed it right in the mirror and gone, okay, mate, well, what do we need to work on? What do we need to work on? Because this is not a time to repeat what we've seen before, because what we've seen before has been amazing in some ways. And like Bilal will speak to this, and G, I know your life is the same because your parents set you up amazingly. But they didn't set us up to be ineffective. They set us up to be massively effective. You know what I mean? For the world that we're in now. And that's why I feel like Bilal, you're talking about people that we see around us. And I feel like it stems from a place of lack of belief that I can change the world. I know I can. I will. I am doing. We can change the world. You and you, both of you, right? And I think if you can set yourself up to that standard from day one, you can do anything. You'll definitely stumble and fall along the way. You must, because you must lose yourself to find yourself. Right? If you stay, and this is a topic I want to touch on quickly. I'm training in my own home gym, Bilal, when we used to live in Stockton, and I think it's fantastic. But at some point, you have to break out of there, and you have to kind of go out into the big wide world and see what the real problems are. Because it's like Hercules in the Disney movie, right? So he's in his little town, and he has to go out and find his trainer. He has to go out, then he has to go to thieves, and he has to go and fight the big monsters and everything else. That's the hero's journey for a reason, you know what I mean? Because you can cultivate what we need to cultivate. This podcast is a means of doing that, bringing people in, kind of us talking, me and G talking first, 10 episodes deep, sound, let's go find people now. Let's go bring this person, that person, the other. And make this network grow, because and it all stems back to that same thing of, unless you believe that you are somebody here to no human being is designed to be something inane like a shelf stacker. Like, you're just not. There's too much potential within you. Like the same DNA that runs within you ran inside freaking Ramesses, right? And he built the pyramids. The same DNA inside you is inside David Attenborough, is inside Madame Curie, right? Like, put yourself on their level. Like, let's be about it to the level that they were about it. You know what I mean? I think there's an abundance, there's billions of people just wasting away. And like Sylvia, you said it, and who referenced Sylvia a few podcasts ago. It's like they're dead, but they're just not buried yet. And this is like, it's so true. It's so true. You can't, right? Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Sylvia needs to be on that Nature is Metal as well. Just be there. just dancing a zebra.
Dude, he'd be dancing a lion, man. He's like, he's because he's about it. That's why he's like, give me the hardest challenge.
Man. That's so true.
That's it. Yeah. We see that too much. We see it too much with people that just kind of aren't. And it's not. I don't want to shine the light on people and be like, because this is a fine line to walk. I know that personally. I've had it made for me. I've had this house. I've had this platform. I've had this faith from day one that's been pushed to me. So this is building me to a level where I should be damn effective. And I hold myself to that standard. I want to hold myself to that standard. But the rest of the people don't have this. They haven't had the lineage that we've had. They haven't had the friends that we've had, the acquaintances, right? So it's that. This is why it's so important for us to firstly, like Bilal said, introspect and make sure that we check ourselves and go out into the wide world. And then really, like Peterson says, we are networks within a node, and we are nodes within a network, right? And really, we're just one organism. When I breathe, we all breathe. When we breathe, everyone breathes, right? And it's if we can think of it like that, like people just my name for this podcast was going to be don't be a something brown, right? Like kind of just let's all be just kind of work for each other, and then it ended up turning into nurture your garden brown because I was like a bit more PG.
So man, we can go 18.
Yeah. Watershed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely think that a lot of the stuff that we discussed in this is some of the things that Bilal's brought up today. 1,000,000% we need to set the stage for people to be able to be as effective as we can be.
And you need to be on the stage, man, because every time you talk about it, you get me fucking jacked. My heart is starting to beat. I'm ready to go.
We work it out. Yeah,
He's telling me I'm recording a workout right now. Seriously, every time you say it, and I'm like, yes, this is why you are my friend. This is why I have people like you around me, man, because it just gets you fucking jacked.
Real. Yeah,
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. But this only comes out within this presence. You know what I mean? That's why it's so real. And really, we spoke about this. That book is still sat there, the one of how to talk. You know what I mean? Like how to express yourself, right? Like NWA song, right? But that was it for me. Like learn that piece. As soon as you can learn to speak, maybe you can start speaking effectively and change yourself and change everybody else and whatever. Then it steamrolls from there. And I'm still falling as I work, but you guys have your own obstacles. Everybody else has their own obstacles. Just face your fear, right, and keep going.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, man. It's just and that's that point of like, you know, we've got it made. We don't want to take for granted the level that we're coming from. But even for people who are below that level, like even for people who feel like they got nothing, it's like the principle is the same. You still got to look at yourself, and you still got to do that one thing that you can do to pull yourself out of whatever hell you're in. And it applies because, I mean, we can look at it from our perspective, let's say from training clients, right? So a lot of my clients, you know, they're all kind of in the same sort of, well, at least when the city was operational, they had like the same background. It's like, you know, city workers, highly driven, but then, you know, one will be 49 years old, 6'4", being like, I saw a picture of myself and I was devastated that I looked this way. I'm going to change that, to somebody who's 40, 5'2", overweight, or has a severe back problem. But the thing that they're going through is the same in a sense, which is I'm in a place where I'm not happy and it's not serving me well. I need to be out of that place. So it doesn't matter who you are. That's how we can relate. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. So when, like, this is what I hate about like the media narrative or just people's narrative in general is like, oh, this person's a billionaire, how can they have problems? It's like, mate, you get a different set of problems, whichever level you get to, you know, arguably that person might even have bigger problems, right? Because everybody's looking at this person like, what are you going to do? Or everybody's looking at this person for answers because, oh, this person's got solutions that no one else has figured out. So, you know, why don't you share the wealth, all that kind of shit. And they're going to get asked questions that they don't have answers for, and that makes life difficult for them. And it's not just for them, because everybody's looking at them trying to make these answers to try and find the right answers, right? So there's just different levels to the problems, and it doesn't mean that you know, somebody who's extremely poor is allowed to have problems versus somebody who's extremely rich. It's like, no, it's like you were saying, man, it just is. It just is. You always have a problem. You just have to, all you do is learn how to deal with that problem in front of you.
1,000%. We all got problems.
Got 99 problems, but a podcast ain't one.
That's the one.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Should we segue into some
actual?
Yeah, some Jimmy, some like training, some bicep pump. So we should
talk about it.
Right, yeah, let's talk. Bills, go on, man. We need to hear about your journey, because
my journey.
Exactly,
my journey.
You're a young man, and you were talking about feeling like a broken mess. What were you doing? Like, what were you doing?
What was I not doing?
Yeah, or like not just to like feel broken, but like just in life. What's the context?
Context. Okay. Physical activity always it's been a part of my youth life as far as I can remember. 7 years old, running in the park, being a crazy little kid, playing cricket, playing football, that kind of stuff within the family. And dad was always pushing. Physical activity is really important. And thank God he did. I don't know where the hell I'd be without that kind of, and it's become an everyday thing for me. It's literally part of me as a character, as a person, because I go to it so much. But childhood, very much activity based, but also high expectations in terms of, when we're running, we're running for a hobby, but why don't we just time it on a stopwatch just to see where you're at? Do you know what I mean? And so there's always a level of expectations. Do you know what I mean? So let's just see where you're at, and then we'll go, and the next week we'll see where you're at again. And so there was a level of expectation amongst physical activity. So that was always the thing. And then running and athletics is kind of where it started, doing a lot of running in the park and then going to Saffron Lane and then looking to compete and stuff like that. Never ended up competing in that. Then went down the route of contact sports, boxing. But I mean, all of these things, the way I started was just doing a lot of the same thing. And it was kind of like the aggression kind of thing. Just do more, you'll get better. Just do more and you'll get better. Just do more.
Sorry, man. We just heard this noise. It sounded like a technical fart.
Did you hear it? Did Bilal just hear it?
No, I didn't hear it. I'm yapping away. Imagine if I farted mid-pocket. That'd be brilliant.
You didn't even know about it, like a baby.
That wasn't me.
Sorry,
it wasn't me.
Sorry, man. That cut you off mid-thought because it was just
that's all right.
Both of us.
You knew what was that?
I was like, did I say something?
Was that you? Was that you? Or was it me?
Yeah.
So
boxing, contact sports.
Boxing.
You just
so contact sports. Yeah, just doing more. To get better, do more. To get better, do more. You want to get better at boxing? Go do more rounds. You want to get better at running? Go do more rounds of running. Go run 400 meters as much as you possibly want to or can. And so then I carried that into resistance training. And I started resistance training in my garage in my shed. I remember I used to have a lawnmower and I used to do incline bench press on that. But this is the setup, and I want you to picture this because it's tragic, but it's we did it. So we put I put the lawnmower and I'd lean it against the wall. But because it has the handle, it'd slide up against the wall. So I'd weigh things on top of the handle. And then because it's got like a little curvy thing, this is ridiculous. I'd lay down on it with my back and I'd grab any weight. And I used to have a bar, like the old school York bars and stuff like that. All our dads used to rock. Yeah, we all got that stuff. And then I used to just clean and jerk that shit. And then I used to just bench press for as many times as I possibly could. Like, you want to get better? You want to get a bigger chest? Just do more. Just do more. Until I'd do that for an hour straight and do press-ups. And I'd follow idiots like, who would I follow at the time? Who was my entrance of YouTube, like the YouTube world? It was probably Greg Plitt. I know he's passed away since. But his idea was kind of like, get in the fucking gym. 4 a.m. You got to do that shit. If you don't do the work, you're a piece of shit. You're a pussy. That was his thing. That was Greg Plitt, right? You just got to do it. So that was me doing explosive press-ups, not knowing what the hell I was doing. And I kind of did that for a few years amongst the boxing. And the boxing I was doing it with grown men, literally grown men. These guys were running 40 minutes at the time. And when I mean running, it felt like sprinting for me, but I would just do it. I just do the 40 minutes. I'd have shin splints and I don't give a shit. I'm just going to do it. Go to the gym after a 40-minute run, go do 6 rounds on the bag, beat the crap out of the biggest bag that looked like it could envelop me. If it did fall on me, it could kill me probably. But just do 6-7 rounds on that. Elbows are sore, shoulders are hurting. It doesn't matter. Get better, do more. And so that's kind of like the trajectory that it took. And I took that into weightlifting as well. When I really started weightlifting, and this is going to shock you guys, when I really picked up a dumbbell heavier than 10 kilos or 15 kilos was actually in my first or second year of university, which is only about, now I graduated in 2016. It's 2020 now. So about 5-6 years ago. That's the first time I picked up a dumbbell heavier than, like I said, 15, 20 kilos. Same mindset. Do more. Just, you want to get better, do more. You want to get bigger, do more. So I was eating, stupid amounts of food and just lifting weights stupidly. Deadlifts, the whole thing. And I was following a lot of YouTube personalities at the time, which now if I stood in the same room, I'd start slapping them up. Like, what were you teaching us kids, man? Just bloody do chest day when you start out. Who's meant to do 40 sets of chest a week when you just started out? No one, you know what I mean? But I was doing that. And so I developed a lot of issues, like a lot of shoulder problems. But here's the thing. But because of my perception of that wasn't problems, they didn't seem like problems to me. They were just masters. This is pretty normal. So I still continue to do everything I continue to do. And so there were never really problems up until the point where doing a bench press was kind of like, oh, my shoulder's about to fall off, especially my left shoulder. And then my hips in squats started feeling like all sorts of like cracky pops and impingement or whatever. And then running became like a bit of a chore for me. And I used to always run. So coming from the athletic background of doing things that are fluid in movement, not like working only strictly in the sagittal plane, but you're just going doing everything like you're a boxer, you're explosive, to doing things strictly in the gym, I find I was losing that ability to be athletic. But again, it was normal. You do more, you want to get better, just do more. Up until I'd say, I think it was around graduated from university, we went into business, me and my younger brother. During that business, we were doing business and we were working out there. We actually worked with Umar and did a bit of a 12-week transformation. It's kind of hit its pinnacle. And at that point, I'd say I was frustrated as hell with my body. Not in terms of how it looked. I've always been lean, can always hold a lean physique, but it's how I felt. It just seemed so backward to me that I was in the gym so much, able to do so much, felt so strong in certain positions, but then just standing was a bit of an issue. I could feel the elbows, I could feel the shoulders, I could feel the hips, knees, ankles, whatever. And I could feel that. And so it just seemed like I was putting myself in a bit of a, it was normal up until a certain point where the frustration hit a peak and I thought, this can't be it. This just can't be it. You can't spend 2 hours in the gym every single day, do the jogging or running. You think you should be invincible. Like the notion as a kid is you do all this work, you put on all this muscle, your physique looks amazing, so you should feel amazing. But it just doesn't work out like that. Yeah, that's it, man. Put on the music and I'll jog in 6 feet snow and I'll be all right. So just do more. You're going to get better, do more. And so it was around 2018. So we're at this point, we're selling the business, the food business, and we're coming back to Leicester. And I decided, all right, this is it. I'm just gonna stop everything that I've been doing because I was doing a lot at the time. I think I was just dabbling in boxing, still doing the weight training, deadlifting, all that kind of stuff. And I decided I'm just gonna stop. That's it, literally abruptly. And I was like, okay, now let me look for a coach. Let me look for something that I can almost start over from ground level, ground zero, because I really didn't know much about muscle groups, anatomy, or anything in 2018. Like, I mean, nothing. You didn't know my head from my ass. Like, tell me about a bicep insertion origin. I'd look at you like, what are you talking about? That's how muscles work and stuff like that. Just clueless. And then I was introduced to MoveU online, and they had a program, Forever Fix, and Umar knows the program pretty well. Amazing program for individuals who are just, trying to fix themselves or just go through movement or want to understand more about their bodies. Fix your shit. And so that was kind of the entry point into ditching everything, absolutely everything, no boxing, nothing. And I did that for about 8 to 9 months. And I followed that program religiously. When I mean religiously, I mean, all right, cool. We're going to do this every single day, morning and evening, morning and evening, morning and evening. Nice. And it just got to the point where after a month, I was like, right, I'm losing muscle, I'm gaining some weight and so on and so forth. But I feel pretty aware of what my body's doing. I'm always doing like things with my shoulders because I know exactly where they are. When I do a press up now, every now and then I sneak in a press up just to see how the press up's feeling. And I could see how that would impact my body, just doing very small movements progressively over time. So I did that for 8 months. And during that 8 months, it would never occur to me that I'd go into fitness or health or anything like that. This was strictly an endeavor for myself to feel better in movement so I can do this for the rest of my life. That was it. Never a progression to a career or anything of that sort. And then part of the MoveU course, they introduced you to anatomy. So then I think Umar introduced me to this doctor on YouTube who talks about anatomy. I don't know if you, Umar, the brown Kelly hair. I don't know if you remember him.
Sam Webster?
Sam Webster. And he did some brilliant basic anatomy videos. So that's second, I'd say I did that alongside the MoveU program. And that's it. After 8 months, I just felt like, right, now it's time to jump into getting into the weights again, start movement again, and learn really what it's like to feel your body in movement as opposed to feel that chest tearing pump and the arm pump. Aside from that, feel how is my body moving as one massive unit, as one body, essentially how the word would suggest.
So after that 8-9 months, how did you feel?
Absolutely amazing. And I'd say definitely things to learn from. You should never ditch activity like I did all the way. But I needed to because of the state I was in. Just the pain or just the restrictions, how I felt when I was waking up. And this is you're in your 20s, and this used to always pop up in mind. You're in your 20s, and you're feeling like this, or your elbows feel like they're about to fall off every time you do a bench press or a overhead extension or something like that. It just can't be. It doesn't make any bloody sense, right? And so after 8-9 months, I was moving a lot better. Range of motion had improved. I still had the issues. Left shoulder wasn't cleared up completely, but I still had the issues. I was just more confident that now if I go into a bench press or a press up, I'd know exactly what remedial measures to take to beforehand or warming up effectively so that I can enjoy my bench press and I wouldn't feel like my shoulders about to fall off post bench press. And then thereafter, it's just been straight. Did the personal training course, corrective exercise. Now we're on Jordan Shallows. So it's been a lot in a few little years. 2018, so I'm very young into learning all of this kind of stuff. But I picked it up very quickly because of how I entered. It was just focus on myself. Okay, so this is what the quad does. All right, so how do I stretch the quad if my quad's feeling tight? Cool. Anatomy tells me inserts here, origin is here. Then if I move those points, then cool, we get a stretch. And I do it on myself. That was it. That was probably the biggest benefit from the Move You program was, this is what you're feeling. Right, let's look at anatomy. What do these muscles say? Then cool. Let's try and address it. And not from a perspective of, or end range contractions or this or that. No, you just want to feel better. This is what this muscle does. Stretch it. Cool. This is what it does. Experiment. This is a step up. You feel it on your glute. Go do 10 reps, 2 sets. Things as basic as that. And because I thought about things, watched the video, implemented, looked at different strategies, and just did it. I just did it every single day. In my room, I'd mess around. I have bands still today. Walk into Umar's room, he'll have bands. He'll probably do the same thing. Just experimented on myself. I mean, that's why when I do these, I think that's what helped the learning just kind of just through the roof. And you could tell me certain things about my body, and I just know because I do it on myself, you know. And now I'm at a point where I'm not afraid to go grappling or jiu-jitsu and do these kind of crazy things, which are not so natural for your body. But I know what measure to take to make sure that I'm okay, and I'm moving well and moving fine. Mobility sessions are in there. Our workouts are supplementing how my body moves as opposed to doing the opposite and just, you know, mashing my body up completely. So yeah, it feels like a long road, but it's been now that I'm talking about it, it's like a snapshot. Jesus, 2018, that's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was that's cool, man. I was in a very similar boat when I kind of started out as well. Because I had this, for me, it was more like a realization. It was like, oh shit, okay, well, I need to address some things. It was like, I started out in the industry. I was already a fitness coach. And then I was teaching one of the classes as a fitness coach, and then I went to demonstrate an exercise, and like just felt something ping in my abdominal. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? But it wasn't bad enough like that I had to completely stop. I could just carry on, but I was like, okay, something's just gone off. And like, it's not like previous injuries I'd had were fractures basically. So I'd fractured my metatarsal, I'd fractured my ankle, but I'd never like really remember pulling a muscle or anything. Like I got shin splints once, and then I got that dealt with, and it was like, okay, cool. Because at one point I think I was probably skipping too much as a 17-18-year-old for a little bit, and it was like, oh, this is actually doesn't feel good because I'm not strong enough to handle this, and I got it dealt with. But actually going through something like that, I was like, oh, this is a bit strange. That feels weird. And then saw the chiropractor, and like, you know, amazing chiropractor, like ended up being a mentor of mine for a bit of time. Or at least unofficially, because I just like, you know what, I resonate with a lot of what you say. And you're just a really good person to have around me early on in my career. And then I was like, you know, I do all these core exercises and stuff. He's like, mate, your core is shit. And I was like, what? What do you mean? I'm a fucking fitness trainer. My core is shit.
I got abs, dude. I got abs, look.
Yeah, exactly. It is just like, oh man, he just brought me down so many pegs, man. I was like, I thought I knew what I was doing. It turns out I don't. He's like, yeah, you tore your psoas. And I was like, how the fuck did I do that? I didn't even do anything rough, right? So it just made me think. I'm 26 at this point, and I'm like, all right, well, clearly I'm not doing something right. If I keep doing this, I'm going to be a mess. I did the same thing. I just stopped. But the thing is, I didn't have that guided approach. I didn't actually do like really any physical activity for about 3 years. So like, yeah, it was just, I was a lot of experimenting with different things, but I didn't actually like train on a program. And regimented. I didn't go back to jiu-jitsu. Like I didn't do any of this stuff for ages. And then finally I was like, okay, you know what? I need to start doing this again. But yeah, it was very similar, where it's like, okay, I've got something. If I don't do something about it now, I could be 30 in a complete mess. So just thought, right? Yeah, exactly. But it was more like, you know, it wasn't even that much of a long-term thought. It was just like, why is something wrong? This shouldn't be wrong. So then I just wanted to fix it. So then I realized there's a whole world out there, because I got into fitness and personal training because I was thinking, oh, you know what? I can teach other people how to get results. But then I walked through that door and I realized there's about 20 other doors that are behind that door. I was like, oh shit, this is not a straightforward journey. It's not going to be as easy as that. So I went down that functional route, like straight off the bat, mobility, movement, and function. And yeah, it was a good thing I did. Otherwise, yeah, it'd just be problems, man. But I resonate with that story. I resonate with your story.
Yeah, man. And it really is as basic as that. You just start questioning yourself, like, well, why is that hurting when I do that? What should it be hurting? I'm 20. I should be invincible. My dad used to say, in your 20s, you should be pinnacle. It's the peak of your performance in all aspects. In your 20s and 30s. The way I was going was like, continue doing this, and my ankle's going to fall off, and my hips are going to dislocate whenever I do something. And of course, it wasn't. I didn't understand the gravity of the situation then. All I know is it just didn't feel good. Now I'm saying dislocation, and I'm saying muscle this, that, imbalances. I didn't know that. All I just knew was not feeling good. And I wanted to change something. So frustration led to that pain being a bit too much, and just kind of right next. What can I do for this?
Okay, that's really interesting, man. Really interesting. And it seems like a lot of your audience now is those same people, bro. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So my avatar in social media, my business coach, shout out to Ollie Carson. He talks about how when you're on social media, if you're doing it for the purpose of looking to impact and gain clients, then you have to talk to a certain group of people. So if ever I'm planning a social media post, what's my avatar? Who am I talking to? I'm essentially talking to myself 4, 5, 6 years ago, or literally 2, 3 years ago. Jesus, I'm talking to myself 3 years ago. What mistakes did I make as a teenager or as a person just starting out in weight or movement and not understanding certain fundamentals that we should all walk into the gym with? And I don't know who says this. Is it you, G, or I saw in a podcast? We are essentially personal trainers or doctors of the gym, right? You wouldn't go have a health condition and not go to a doctor and try and figure out yourself. And why the hell do we do that when we walk into the gym, right? And so just kind of talking to myself that many years ago, that's the people I want to impact. My 20s, kind of like make your 20s great again, right? You shouldn't be living in pain. And the majority of, and we've got a nice little group now that I'm working with, about 10 to 15 guys. Most of them are in their 20s. I'd say one is above 30, is about 36. But most of them are 20s. Sciatica pain, lower, like they'll be told stuff like, oh, they have disc degenerative disease or all these kind of things. And their mindset about movement is so poor because they don't understand what movement is specifically, what it actually is. They're just not equipped the education. And they entered the same way I did. Just if you want to get better, do more, or and then they just mess themselves up. And so as a result, they build over these negative relationships with movement and stuff like that. And so my goal is to go, right, so whoever's about to step in the gym, or you're in the gym already, and you kind of lack direction, you don't really feel like you're improving, but you always feel like as soon as you step out of the gym, I'm a bit stiff. Why am I not moving like I want to be? And everybody said, I can tell you, on average in a month, I have about 15 people message me going, dude, I can't touch my toes. Should I be worried? Or something abstract, like, dude, I want to do the splits in my 20s, but why can't I do the splits? And abstract things. But really what they're asking is, I just don't move as well as I really want to. How can you help? Do you know what I mean? And a lot of 20-year-olds go through this. And I've seen some interesting cases. 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds can't sleep at night because they're living in chronic pain. Do you know what I mean? And they just don't move. But they go gym. They go gym, G. They're there 4 to 5 times a week. They're doing the shoulders. They're doing the chest days. But they're just screwing themselves up in the process. So that's the people that I want to speak to on a weekly basis when I'm posting on stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, I like that, man.
Super helpful, super necessary. There we go. I'm sneaking it in.
Yeah, super necessary, bro. Hey, make no bones about it, man. Explicitly, it's going to get in there every podcast.
That's the kind of thing that people need, like university, people coming out of secondary school, people going into primary school. You know what I mean? Like it's akin to like getting back to nurturing your garden, right? Buying a plant pot, buying a plant. You want that thing to survive. You want that thing to thrive, right? And it's getting smashed into the ground. Like nobody with any kind of finesse is going about growing this plant pot and feeding it where it needs to be fed and giving the experience that needs to be given. And really, what's going to be the product? It's going to be some backward ass plant. Like no one wants that. No one wants that weird plant that don't kind of grow any further. And whereas what you've done is you've repotted yourself. You've kind of gone at it with a bit of care. You've trimmed a few leaves away. You've not painted the leaves green. This is a phrase that kind of I've used before, but like in the West or kind of like the Alice in Wonderland thing, right? So Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts comes along and she has all these roses and they're all white, I think, and her color's red, so she paints them all red. It's like no, the roses are white. Leave them white. You're damaged. Understand that you're damaged from this. Don't just try and paint over it with, oh, look at this filter and look at this social media, look at these tight Gymshark clothes that I'm wearing. Like kind of this is that bicep vein might be bulging, but it's not a functioning arm that it's hanging off of. Like
exactly.
Can we address that? Can we
and that's that, right?
I missed that. What did he say? I missed that.
I was like, hey man, don't talk to me like that. So I see that.
But that's it. And we walk into the gym, and I think everyone has to do this. We walk into the gym, and it's, again, we're so heavily marketed, but we go in with a two-dimensional view of what do I actually want from the gym. And it tends to, most of the time, and I know I started because I wanted a bigger chest or I wanted bigger arms and stuff like that. But then that leads you down such a narrow road that you don't have any options. And so the results and the consequences of those actions are very, we can always guess, like as trainers, what we see in the gym and what we can expect to see in terms of our shoulders, hips, and certain contraindications that we witness and see. It's pretty obvious because we're down such this narrow road of this is movement to grow a big chest, or if you want a bigger chest, just bench press, or this is it. This is your two-dimensional viewpoint. Then people go into the gym and they're just not aware. So my intention is to catch them in that moment. They're in that shitstorm of like, what the hell is going on? And they're like feeling a bit hopeless about their workouts. And I go, hey, dude, why don't we sprinkle a bit of movement? We go back to the foundations a little bit. You're still going to grow. You can still put on some muscle. We have to blend the two. That's perfectly fine. Don't ditch it like I did. We're still going to do that. But then we can start to enjoy movement again. We're not going to feel so stiff when we're moving. And when we're moving on a daily basis and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, it's just, and I think it's like you said, it's a necessary evil for people to walk into those marketed gyms so heavily, get that £15 membership, and maybe to those uneducated personal trainers that are out there sending those stupid programs, or those online trainers that are messing people up on YouTube and stuff like that, and telling people, go do your chest days, go do your shoulder days. And then after that, they come out of that process damaged and hurt. And it's kind of us. It's where we step in and go, I got you. We'll do the same. We'll still have fun in the gym, but we'll make sure we do it the right way. We have all these other things that we can consider.
Exactly. And the other thing on top of that is, it's like, well, if you actually want to look good, you want to look symmetrical as well. It's like it literally happens. If a muscle is not getting that neurological signal to function properly, it's just not going to look the way you want it to look as well. So it's actually going to help you be more swole if you sort out movement.
Yeah, exactly. Doing less but doing more, right? Doing less is more, especially in that case. And so, yeah, so it's been quite good. And group of people that we're working with are understanding it. And the people that come to me is very, like, the message that you put out, you'll attract the same people who are attracted to your message, right? And these are these people who are willing to learn. And that's definitely the message that I put out there. On our check-in calls, we're always talking about, right, how can we educate this individual that's in front of me so that in 12 weeks he can go out and design his own movement program, or he can understand what type of movements that he probably would benefit from. So he can walk into them and do his stuff whilst supplementing it with improving his movement through the workout itself, and then doing movements of his own. So it's very much about education and empowerment, which is what we're all in this industry for, right? The people that we follow and the people that we look up to, educate people. We just don't go, here's a little drop in the ocean of what I want you to know so you can pay me next month and renew that membership and just get the financial gains from all of this. It's not that. It's more so about, let me educate you and give you that needle of light so we can start improving how you're moving long term. And I wish I had that earlier on. I wish I was like 14. Somebody goes, dude, come to the gym. We're going to train your shoulders or your chest or upper body today. But this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to consider. Like, this is the big picture. This is what we're doing today. And let me teach you this stuff. And I wish I had that. But in order for me to get here, I had to go through all of that stuff. You know what I mean? So
that's really good.
Yeah.
You conjured up so many images when you were talking, bro. You two things you conjured up in my crazy, wacky mind. You said, I want to catch those people kind of coming into the gym, punching in their Pure Gym pin, and like can get to that last digit. And Bilal just pops, hi.
Is it like with a stack and just rubs it, push over, and is like, I'm taking you with me.
Chitty bang bang with a child catcher, just like with a big ass net, just like, oh, over you. Get in the van. We're gonna fix that sub-scout.
Oh man, let's get you moving, right?
I think there's a business name in there. Chitty bang bang is like chitty something. I don't know. We could I'm the movement catcher. I'm the dysfunction catcher. Catch that dysfunction. Take it with you.
Yeah, man.
Take it with you. Rid you of that dysfunction.
But yes, that's what it stemmed from, man. Just pretty much my own journey. Here we are working with people, so it's good. It's good fun, man. Didn't think I'd ever be here, but it's been massive. And having people like you guys around me, it's just been ridiculous. Because like the level of growth, it's like somebody just went, it blew me up. Like, I just absorbed all this information because I'm around people who are having such high level, conversations. And I'm so glad I didn't go to my local gym and just start chilling with those people and just learn it the wrong way. Somehow I've been gifted the ability to just kind of been plopped up into amongst people that are so experienced within the industry that are just like, right, why don't we look at it like this? Obviously, with still a very infant mind into what I'm doing or what I'm going into, but with a better understanding of what I'm actually going into. So that's been a blessing, such a blessing for you guys and stuff like that. It's wicked.
Yeah, well, it works. Likewise. Yeah, exactly. Likewise, works both ways as well. Because like now we're all doing pre-script together. You know, is great. I mean, I've kind of like I knew I've needed that. I've needed that for a long time as well, to be surrounded by people who I can have these conversations with. Have these like somebody ask me questions. So if I know. Do I know what I'm talking about? And then me asking other people's questions as well, and like getting a different perspective. Because, like I said, you know, I'm coming from that function end. Like that's where me and you, like, you know, it's good. We balance out TJ and Umar quite nicely there as well. Like we're coming from that end of function. These guys are coming from like just get barbell, just get fucking hat. Like, I love it. It's so good how we're just like meeting in the middle and having these conversations. So I'm getting a really good perspective from you boys as well as a result of that. And I'm super happy that I get to be able to do that with you guys, man.
Chuffed, mega chuffed, man. Mega chuffed.
Future looks bright, eh? Future looks bright.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Exciting times, man. Exciting times.
This time next year, we will evolve, achieve, thrive, be.
That's it.
Exactly. This time next year, hopefully about 80 episodes deep, man.
Oh goddamn! That's money, man.
I was just thinking. Wicked. I was about to message you mid podcast, bro. I do this sometimes with G. I was about to message you mid podcast and say, "You need to get this out there. You need to get this pumping out there." You know what I mean? Like, and that's I think the message is. G, you ask me all the time, like, get people to share it, get people to kind of to pass it on to the next person. And a shout out to eventually got to my clients, Sam, Amy, Hemel, all this week who have all taken time to listen to the podcast, share the podcast with friends, family. And they've come back and told me the success stories of they've, like Bilal said, educated their people around them. It's the education, it's the passing of knowledge, it's the self looking at yourself first. I'm not really fixed on this. Okay, cool. I'll listen to this podcast, help me in a few ways. I've passed that on now. And to be honest, 80 podcasts, fantastic, but it's the 20 that we've done so far. I think have so much value in some senses, like some of the things you've said today, Bilal, some of the things that I know you've said for the last 20 episodes. Can help so many people, and that's the win, right? That's the win. So I know Bilal had to chip off close to this time. Did you have any more time, Roy? Should we stay on for a bit longer, or should we call it there?
I'm good for another 10 minutes if you got 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
We got 6 hours in it.
6 hours.
It's like once you leave, we'll just carry on.
Sundays are podcast days, huh?
That's it.
It is Sunday today. It is Sunday.
It is Sunday. It's gone so quick, hey. Weekend, nothing on the weekend, man.
Oh man, this weekend, it's been good. It's been good. I feel like I've got a lot done. Jesus, it is Sunday today. Wow, it's good, man.
So let me ask you this, bro. We may modify this question a little bit because it is a bit of a generic one, but
cool.
In terms of another trainer getting into the industry right now, brand new trainer, fresh faced. Kind of wanting to have what we have in this context. What would you say to them? How would you kind of ignite that fire? Because there is clearly a reason why you are where you are through looking at yourself and breaking that stuff down. Oh, this is not right. That's not right. How would you kind of put it across to them to think more critically about their journey?
To think more critically about their journey. I think it stems from. So I mean, the way I started, just kind of going back to my journey, and what really kind of goes, I want to just study endlessly, or I want to just keep going, or just keep learning and stuff like that. I would say it's wanting to be good at your job, just like wanting to be really good at your job, right? The mistake I made very early on was I was doing a lot of learning as opposed to being very practical, and you know this, right, from our discussions. So I knew a lot of stuff, and I could help the odd person every now and then. But I did the eye test, the natural eye test of going, right, let me look at someone. There he is. Where did you go? Captain Brown. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys were able to carry on. That's amazing because I just got booted out. This is episode 20, man. Even if you're 28 episodes deep, you can still get new shit coming up that you don't know how to deal with.
Move aside, bitches. Exactly. What was that saying? It's just the want to get really good at your job, right? So the reason we stepped into this industry is because we want to, and for some people, it comes through impact, and you can understand. For some people, are just physical individuals, and they're like, I guess I'll do personal training. But then there comes a level where you want to be really good at your job, right? Because enjoyment, fulfillment comes when you're good at something. You'll always feel frustrated when you're absolutely crap at something. Or somebody goes, dude, I have a bit of a niggle on my shoulder, or my shoulder's not moving as well. And if you don't know, you kind of feel unworthy or something like that. Now, I didn't have that problem early on because I was midst in the knowledge of corrective exercise and following people like Muscle Doc and you guys. But the mishap or the mistake I made was just not practical enough with seeing people and just getting in the trenches essentially and working with people. So to ignite the passion or to be a bit more of a critical thinker is put yourself in different scenarios or more scenarios and understand what exactly it is that you're looking to do or help people with. So my thing is movement, sure, but I can help you in the gym or outside the gym, whether you're at home. And so I just have to put myself out to more people who are looking to do that. And the more exposures I have and the better I get at my job and the better, the results that I get with my clients, the more inclined I am to go, well, I just need to keep learning, because learning and applying is just a simple recipe. So if I have someone here who comes up to me and goes, right, I just feel like in my squat, my lower back hurts, or I'm just living with lower back pain. And I assess him and I'm absolutely clueless about doing this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. There comes a point where you just feel unworthy. And this has happened to me very early on when somebody came to me like, asking about shoulder issues. And I was so early on in personal training, I was still doing the level 3 course, which is quite simple and basic. You don't deal with shoulder issues or anatomy and that kind of stuff. And I felt quite unworthy. I was like, can I really do this? But all you have to do is learn and apply. And it's a simple recipe. And of course, you have to package it up nicely and make sure your client can digest that information. But the bottom line is just get good at your job. And Mark Cole, like someone I follow on Instagram, he's reputable industry business coach. He always talks about it. You'll always be frustrated if you're not getting the results you want to get for your clients. You'll always be frustrated. But how do you get results? You have to know your shit. You have to know your stuff to a certain degree and then apply it. Just keep applying it. My massive gap for me was, right, I knew the stuff. I could throw out the fancy words, but you throw someone in front of me and my heart rate would be through the roof and I'd start sweating because I was like, oh man, I've not really assessed someone like this before. And of course, there's always that entry point. But now it's like second nature. My assessments aren't stringent, like, I'm doing this, and this. It's based off what I'm looking at. But that comes with just doing it. Learning, all right, cool, we've done PSO, we're doing this, like the shoulder stuff. I kid you not that we did that shoulder lecture, the 4 doorways. The next day I was assessing someone through the shoulder. We just went through the 4 doorways and that's it. We figured out, okay, we can probably look at this in your programming in a few different ways. But it was application, straight learn it and apply it. And and that's it. And I think to be a critical thinker, or like the way we think or the way we want to address the fitness industry, I'm not sure if that's innate or just, get around the good people. But you can tell like when people know their shit, right? Like we have a lot of YouTube and Instagram stars that are telling you to do like walks with a band around your knee and that will fix all your problems, or just become a little generic now. And we know that. And there are generic problems that we can all solve and through posting. But you've got to be genuine about it. Like just be genuine about the people that you're trying to help. But like if someone comes to me, or I can easily do this for a year. Just bump up or put my Instagram page on steroids, pay the right people. In a year's time, have a good amount of followers, and throw out online programs for people that are just generic. Or I can do the groundwork now, work with individuals that I'm seeing on a real life basis, the 20-year-olds, the 20 to 30-year-olds that I want to impact because that was me. And so I have a vested interest in working with these people. So it's very genuine. Then after a year, after I've seen all these people, then maybe if I put an online course together, then I'm very genuine about what I'm putting out there, or I believe in what I'm putting out there because it's come from the real experience. Not bloody just blasting out shit because I can. Like the industry is leveled up so much. We all can understand that. We walk into a gym now. I can go to your nearest gym bro, and he could probably tell me that, bicep has 2 heads and you have the brachiosaurus. He could probably tell me that because the gym bro on YouTube, you have Squat University with 1 million subscribers. You get it? We have that now. It's leveled up so much. But what we're losing, because everybody has the knowledge, it's become so generic. It's paint the brush over everybody, and the solution for one person's solution for the same. But it's not. It really isn't. So be genuine in your approach as well.
Some good advice, man.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like it's someone who's so fresh, relatively fresh into the industry as well. Is like, man, you're pulling out some good shit. So we got hope for you, man.
I'm so young. I hope so. That's good shit. That's good. I got hope from you guys. I'm good. I'm qualified. Like, I don't need any qualifications. I got the Captain Brown and nurturing Gordon Brown's thumbs up.
That name in itself is Anakin Brown. That's what he is. Just rise him up. You're the chosen one. That's it.
Anakin Brown.
That's you, man. That's amazing. Anakin Brown.
Old Qui-Gon Jinn over there, and I don't know which one. But yeah, we'll take it. Jedi.
You could be Jack Yoda.
Jack.
Imagine him wearing a cape. Oh, I love that.
That's it. Mace. I'll take Mace Windu Brown. Thank you very much. I like that. Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
His purple ass lightsaber.
Yeah, man. Bro, that's yeah. No, I like honestly, I like a lot what you're saying as well. And you're right, is because the first thing is like you got to be able to think properly about it as well. Because there's too much generic shit. And when you start to think about it, you start to realize, hey, hang on, actually, it's a much more complicated picture. And like, you know, Simon talked about it, basically that Dunning-Kruger effect, which is just basically you get a little bit of knowledge, and so like your X and Y axis, like your knowledge is here, and your confidence goes up all the way up to here. But then you start to learn a little bit more, and then it starts to come down because you start to realize, actually, I don't know fucking anything. Your confidence starts to come down, but your knowledge is going up. But so then you get to a certain point where you realize, actually, I may be classed now as an expert in the industry. However, I will always be humbled because the more I start to know, the more I realize I don't know. And
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And so,
yeah, man, we really do, like some of the people that I follow on Instagram who are genuine about this, who are kind of like the underground kings, I'd call them. Like they know their shit, they're helping people on a daily basis. And if they were to throw out an online program, I throw my bank account at them because they know their shit. You know, those are the people that we should look up to. Those are the people that have done that. They have like 10, 15 years. And for me, it's not about like, right, cool, I'm on this podcast and I'm getting complimented by you guys. But this ain't it. Like 10 to 15 years, I want you guys to still be in a picture and be like, oh, Bilal, we did it. We're still here. We're still rocking in the same industry, because that's authenticity. It's not bouncing because that's what we get a lot of these days. It's if it's authentic, stand the test of time.
Exactly, man. Because that's the thing, is there is a lot of bullshit out there. There's a lot of generic bullshit out there as well. And people, it's just, they do exactly what you say. They just throw something at it, and like they got to keep thinking about adapting, because they don't really, like, it just looks obvious. It's like you don't really know who you are and what you're about. You're just doing the thing and like, okay, great, you're making bank and whatever. But how long can you sustain that for? You know, until like people stop resonating with that, essentially. And you know, we talk, so authenticity is the thing. There's a great line, it reminds me, is like, you know, tell the truth and you never have to remember a thing. And
that's beautiful.
Because what I like about that is if you just always just behaving as your authentic self, you don't have to worry about shit, you know, in the sense that whereas the other person who's like pumping it out and be like, okay, where's the next avenue I can look at? Where's the next avenue I can look at? Whereas if you just are doing you don't have to really worry about like the next avenue. You just do, and like good shit starts to come to you as well, because you're authentic about it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's such a good quote. Eh? Tell the truth.
Yeah,
you know,
nice.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Just be authentic about it. And I think you're in an industry where you control people's health, right? Morality like has to come into it at some point. You can't be telling 40-year-old man to sit there on a barbell back squat and go, oh, you're doing amazing, while he's jacking up his lower back and his hips and shit. You just can't be doing that. And I mean, like I said, the industry's leveled up so much that we have to have something that's we just have to be a bit more we just have to think more, be a bit more conscious. That consciousness that we're talking about while we're working out, we've got to take it to our clients, and we have to. And then the clients will pick it up, and then they'll take it into their lives, and so on and so forth. So we just gift them that, man.
That'll happen gift them. That end of I can see that pitch that happening very soon, like the bottom end of the industry just dropping out and not having a place because of coaches like us trying our best to know when we don't know nothing. It's time to go sit down and get your books out and realize that, okay, let me be present in the class like we are being right now. That's needed, 100% needed. Yeah, very interesting. Right, go on, man. I think you got to bounce, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's perfect timing. Jeez, I'm gonna go see TJ in a bit as well.
He was telling me earlier.
Catch him on a call.
Catch with him. Nice.
Yeah, catch up with him. See how the programs go. But yeah, man, boys, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I honestly feel so surrounded by you two. I feel so like privileged right now because you guys have years in the industry and you know your shit. And so these are the people I want to always associate myself with. So thank you for getting me on, man. Really appreciate that.
I appreciate it, brother.
Time.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for your time as well. Wicked to have you on as well. We'll do it again for sure, man. It was good because there's a lot of stuff that we could all keep talking about, and we'll go there. But for people who are listening as well, really appreciate you listening. As Umar said as well, just like mad props to everybody who tunes in, because we're super thankful. This is we want to get everything that we say out there because we know there's a lot of value in it. Bilal's adding to that value as well. So get his conversation out there too. If you're enjoying it, please spread it, please share it, and get other people involved as well. The more listeners we can have, the better it is for everyone.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you, Bilal? Where can they contact you? How can they get in touch with you?
I need to know my Instagram handle. It is at Bilal _Malik_M. At Bilal _Malik_M. You can find me on Instagram there, and that's kind of where I post some of the wisdom and stuff that we always talk about.
Wicked. Well, I'll put that in the show notes as well. Anyway.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Nice one. Thanks for the shout out. Appreciate it, man. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Respect, guys. Cool. All right, pleasure. See you soon.
Nice one, man.